Well, hello. We're here with the People, Not Titles podcast, and I'm really pleased to have Brian Tierney here. Brian is a real estate attorney in the Chicagoland area. And Brian, you were actually a big inspiration for me to begin my podcast because when I visited you some time ago, you had all your equipment behind you, and so you've done some podcasting. I know you've done some in restaurants, things like that. And so thank you for spending time with us today. We're really excited about it.
Well, thank you, and good to be here, and thank you to all the good folks at LandTrust.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, I'm a little bit jealous of you, because although I might have inspired you to start doing the podcasting, you have now gotten your first episode in before I got mine in.
Well, I did, and one of the keys to podcasting is just get started before you're ready, and I still don't feel like I'm ready, but I've had a great opportunity to meet some great folks, and I've been looking forward to doing this for a long time to talk to you. So you have some cool content that you've posted, and let's just get into it. First off, I just want to your track to becoming a real estate attorney. Let's just talk about that. When you turned the corner to saying, okay, I'm gonna be practicing real estate law.
Well, I'm blessed to be where I'm at today, and that's mostly because I've been surrounded with good people, especially like Carmen Carbonera here at LandTrust, made a million connections for me, and introduced me to a lot of good people. But it was a long track to where I got to, because I was barely able to get into college, but my parents really pushed me. I started off in community college, went to UIC downtown, which now owns John Marshall, which is the law school I went to, or they've merged. I don't know if it's an owner type of relationship, but they've merged now, and John Marshall is now the law school in Chicago of the University of Illinois. But when I first started going to law school, I was going for like labor law and workers' rights. Like my dad was an electrician, and I wanted to kind of fight and stand up for.
So you grew up in a blue collar family?
Yeah, my dad was an electrician. My mom was a secretary. She's still living, but she was a secretary for ComEd, when she was working before she had my brother and I. And so I wanted to go to law school to get into labor law and workers' rights. But then when I got into law school, I started learning. I got more real life experience. I'm like, you know what? That's not really what I want to do anymore. And I got more into business law, like anything that has to do with contracts, like real estate and corporate transactions. And I really wanted to do that. So I had done various things after law school. I was clerking for judges.
Were your parents proud of you when you got your law degree? Was that a big deal for everyone in your household?
Yeah, for my mom it was, and she was, my dad had passed in my third year of law school, so he passed away of cancer, and
were you close with your dad?
We're very close. Yeah, we had a rocky relationship at times, but the majority of our relationship was a close relationship, especially as he was getting older and he got sick with cancer and all that. But he was very proud of me for sure, because I think I was the first, I was his first son. I wasn't the first person in the Tierney family, but of his brothers and sisters and stuff, it was their children that were the first ones to have somebody go to college.
Wow.
So
congratulations, Brian.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
it's tough to break through.
Yeah, well, he was, he came from Ireland. He moved from Ireland back in the 60s, and where he came from, anybody with a college degree was revered, like, oh, they're a big deal, and they were the people that were in power, and they kind of controlled everything. So he wanted us to be on that next level, and he felt that education would take us there. And it does, education is valuable. It's very expensive here in America, but it does open doors. But there's so many people here with college degrees and even law degrees that it saturates the market a little bit. So I don't think it's as important as it used to be. There's obviously a lot of good job opportunities out there where you can make as much money as you would had you went to college or had you went to law school without having to do that anymore. So, so when I was after law school, I worked for a few judges. I was just volunteering. I had a few various jobs because working for judges is a prestigious thing to do. So I was volunteering for a while, trying to get a paid position, because when you work for a judge, you see things from both sides, like the plaintiff, the defense. You get to learn how the judge thinks about things as well. So I did that for a little while. And then I was applying for various jobs, and one of my colleagues from John Marshall Law School told me, hey, I got an email from a real estate law firm, says that they're in need of attorneys. And he's like, he was working at a title insurance company for a while as a title examiner, and so he's like, I can't take advantage of the opportunity right now. So I applied and I ended up getting the job. And
How long ago was that? What was the gap between the time that you graduated and working for a judge and that?
May 2014 was my graduation.
Wow.
I was sworn
You're a
into.
young buck.
Well, yeah, I feel young, but we talked about how time flies before we even started the podcast.
Yeah.
So the time moves quicker as you get more old, as you get older, and it seems to fly by. But yeah, I got sworn into the bar in November 2014, and I started my own firm by May 2016. So in that time
Wow.
period, I volunteered for some judges. I worked various jobs, but I also had started doing my own work. I was doing, wills and trusts and
Yeah.
some corporate
Corporate
LLC
document
work,
stuff.
and I was trying to start getting into the real estate closings.
So what was the biggest thing you took away watching how the judges operate? Was there anything you pulled out of that is still valuable to you?
Yeah, I learned different things from a couple different judges. So I worked for judges in the mortgage foreclosure division of the Illinois State Court when I was in law school, and that's a very detail-oriented thing, and it kind of got me ready for the real estate law that I practiced later. I almost wish I could do it all over again, though, because I feel like knowing what I do now, having practiced real estate law for quite a long time, I was like, I would have known that stuff so much better. I would have been such a greater, help to the judges. But then I worked in the federal level for this judge, Judge John W. Darrow, rest in peace. He taught me just to be like fair and relaxed and to think about things. Like he always just drilled that in our head. It was one simple thing. He's like, think about things. Like just emphasizing the fact that you need to really put time into things to figure out the reasoning or to learn the mystery of it. You know, if you can learn by experience, but you make mistakes. And then he wasn't saying like don't dive in, but he was saying just to make sure you give things the time that you need to properly and thoroughly think about them.
So he was concerned about fairness. He was concerned about doing the right thing, and he knew that doing that it required some attention and focus.
Yes, and he also had a great sense of humor too. He was. I remember we had a couple trials that I watched in his courtroom, and one was this guy who had committed like bank fraud, and he knew that this guy was like. It appeared like I felt like I could sense that he knew. Okay, obviously this guy did what they said he did, right? What they're charging him with. But he made sure that he did everything to remain calm the entire time and give him a fair trial. Another good one though was he had some kind of like federal deportation trial or something going on. The guy that was on trial had been deported to Brazil 5 times. And this was the 5th time that he's now getting ready for deportation again. And the judge has 2 of the federal marshals there in the courtroom, and he's questioning him. He says, so he was in the hospital. We're like, yes. So like, what was the issue? He had some kind of stomach problem. He's like, so I'm guessing you forgot to chain him down to the bed in the hospital? Like, this guy was supposed to be handcuffed to bed because he's a flight risk. He's been 4 to 5 times to come back over and getting in criminal trouble. And that's why he's ending up in federal court. So, yeah, so he had a sense of humor about it, but always made sure that, people got a fair trial and a fair shake. So there was a lot of things I learned. But working in the real estate law firm, you learn what to do, but also what not to do.
So you started with your real estate law firm, and who was that? Just naming names.
I worked for the Panzicos for a while.
Okay.
So Teresa Panzicos,
Yep.
the daughter and family, she
Yep.
has a law firm, and I worked for her for a little bit after.
Great.
After
What'd you learn there?
Just to I learned that it's a fast-paced business, and you really got to work long, hard hours and work quickly to get everything. As much as you can done.
Yeah.
These real estate transactions are a 2-month relationship roughly, and so it moves quickly. You go from the starting line to the finish line pretty quickly if you're doing things well.
Yeah.
And if everybody's doing things well. But we're in one of the busiest real estate markets that we've ever had in this country. The interest rates are really low, so everything's moving way faster than it should. And I feel like that's stressing out a lot of people. attorneys, realtors, lenders, title companies as well. So I don't know if you guys are feeling that on your end.
Totally.
But
Yeah, totally. It's right now, taping this, we're in April of 2021. And it is, we're coming out of the pandemic, and we are, we're in a time where inventory in Chicagoland is something that is, I think, stalling the market. But even though, stalling, everyone's busier than ever, but if there was more inventory, it seems like the appetite is never ending for buyers right now to purchase properties. And so I think anyone who has a listing is a lucky person right now, right?
They're very popular, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're very popular. Yeah. So Brian, how long were you at Panzica's?
A few months. I probably
Okay.
worked there for 3 months, and when I started that job, I had already started taking on some of my own real estate closings, and I told them, I'll stay here for like a year or two, and see. I went in with a mindset of loyalty. Like I told them, I'm going to be opening my own firm eventually, but I'll work for a year or two, give them some real time. But we tried it, and it just didn't work out for either of us, and we parted ways. And I opened up my own shop. I opened up an office on my first office was on near 63rd and Oak Park, which is like the major intersection right there. And I had my office there till like summer of 2018 or something, 2018 or 2019. It all blends together because time moves so quickly.
Yeah.
But I went from there, renting an office, to end up buying my own building over there on 63rd and Central.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to get a law degree. It's another thing to become an entrepreneur. So have you been an entrepreneurial type of person, or what's that about?
Well, I am an entrepreneur mostly by choice, by necessity, but also by choice, right? You go to law school and nobody tells you, when you're there, you could take some internships or something afterward to like learn how to run your own business.
Mm-hmm.
They have it's probably a very good clinic. It's on the Chicago Bar Association where they teach you how to run the business. But when I decided to start doing real estate closings, like I have to figure this all out for myself.
Right.
I've never been in charge of having to run the payroll and make sure everybody's paid
Sign a
properly every
lease.
week. And I mean, that's part of the legal thing. I wasn't too worried about it.
Right.
But like withholding the right amount of money for taxes before you have a payroll set up.
Yeah.
And then getting the payroll set up and just managing people. Like I've worked in retail, I've worked in different positions. I was never really in management, but I knew how to work around with other people and work on teams. But when you're running the show, like there's a lot of things you have to do to build a system or put that in place to make sure that things are running smoothly. And that's just stuff you have to learn by experience, or you learn the hard way. It would be nice if somebody showed you. So yes, I own my own business. I'd rather be my own boss, after all is said and done. I've tried working for other people, and it's like, yeah, it's all right, but I like to take charge of my direction and handle it myself. So, but also like in terms of entrepreneurship, like I'm more creative. I don't really think about like, although I wanted to help other people open businesses, like as part of what one of my reasons for going to law school as time went on, it changed, and I wanted to, work with corporations and in corporate law and transactional stuff like real estate. But I'm more like creative. Like for me, entrepreneurship is gonna be doing podcasts and doing stuff with music and things like that. But I also want to invest, like, I want to send a shout out real quick to Louis Ortiz and Remax Partners in Berlin. I've had talks with Louis about investing, and like he's doing real good things, and he's sharp, and he's making good investments, and he's like, giving other people strategies and good things to look into in the stock market and things like that. So like I'm an entrepreneur that way too. Like I'm looking to finally, now that I've kind of got my business stabilized and I have a system in place, to now start investing more. Like we can't. I don't want to do this until I'm 90 years old.
Right.
I want to have a nice nest egg in place, and I've already kind of started a little bit, but I'm looking now, like surrounding myself with good people like him is getting me ready to take it to the next level. So who knows? I mean, I wanted to open like a car wash when I was younger, things like that.
Yeah.
Now that I'm in real estate, maybe I'll flip a property or two in the future, but I want to diversify things,
That's great. So so you're starting your business, I'm sure there were sacrifices, right? Overnight successes take 10 years typically, right? And so what were some of the sacrifices for you when you first began You know, am I gonna be able to pay my bills? Am I gonna be able to keep the lights on? Am I able to keep my employees, right? Paying them before you pay yourself. Talk a little bit about that.
That last part is it's an interesting thing too. Yeah, when you have to make sure other people are paid, it's like that's real.
There's pressure, right?
Well,
livelihoods, mouths to feed, birds in the nest waiting for the worm.
It doesn't matter if I closed any deals or not that week, right?
Yeah.
They still have to be paid when you have full-time staff. So it's
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't matter where I close 10 deals or no deals. Like you still got to pay them. But repeat that question back to me. Because there was
No, I'm just saying.
that part talking.
What were the
Yeah.
sacrifices? You know, some of the sacrifices that you had to make to be an entrepreneur. Forget going to law school, because a lot of times you graduate law school, you're like, here I am, world, pay me, right? All of a sudden it's like, nope, you still got to go get it. You know.
Well, the challenge, the sacrifices were time and mental stress, right? Like when you first start your business, especially if you're in the service industry, like I am, I'm providing a service, a legal service. I'm not making goods here.
Yes.
It is the time sacrifice because I wore all the hats, right? I'm Superman, so I'm keeping track of deadlines, I'm handling scheduling, I'm sending extensions. I still do my own letters or whatever, or at least I have the staff kind of get me a rough draft and then just review their work and, tailor it to the specific
Quality control.
Quality control, right?
Yeah.
But when you first start, you're doing all that. So you sacrifice a lot of sleep. There's nights when I first started, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. That was kind of early for me. Sometimes it'd be 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. There was times where I get to bed at like 5. And I'd be waking up at like 8 a.m. and getting ready to go to a 9 o'clock closing or something and just, rushing. And so it's tough, but you work to a point where you're like, okay, I think I have enough money now to start paying an assistant. And, like, I remember how my business went. My first year I hit a certain mark. And by the second year I went over double that. And by the third year I went over double that or whatever have you. And it just kept on growing, which was a good thing. And that, partly is the strength of the real estate market we're in because I do mostly real estate law.
Yeah.
But the challenges with sleep, the time sacrifices. One thing though that I can't say is a sacrifice is how many events I went to. Like, I went to these events and, I'm networking, right? Uh-oh. We'll fix that. You just lean it up against the stage probably. Maybe, yeah, we're good. It's a little
Yeah, I
bit
think you're
lower.
right. I think you're right.
All right, we just had a little equipment
Yeah, let's
issue
go
for a
back. So
second.
we're talking about sacrifices.
Yeah, so sacrifices. So
And going to the events.
going to events. So first of all, like God bless the real estate industry. There's so many cool events to go to, so many good people to meet, and get to know and just grow your business together.
So you're a social guy, and
Yeah.
having to go to events wasn't a pain in the butt for you. You were like, let's go.
It's beautiful people doing beautiful things. You
Yeah.
ever been to the Chicago Association of Realtors
Yes.
Awards?
Yes.
Okay,
It's amazing.
it's
Yeah.
red carpet.
Yeah.
It feels like you're going to the Oscars, right?
Yeah.
Like, because even the awards for like the realtors who sell the most properties or the highest volume or the team awards, all this, they're receiving something that looks like an Oscar. So you feel
Yeah.
like you're part of like Hollywood
Yeah.
or something going to these events. And
Well, in fact, in my office, I have because we sponsor one of those events. I have a huge Oscar trophy with LandTrust, with the guy holding LandTrust. So I still have that in my office. So that's how much I love those events.
you guys were one of the sponsors?
Yeah, we were one of the sponsors
So that was kind of
owned
your-
the Oscar. Yeah, and so there was how the one that was at maybe the Drake or whatever it was.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was at that one, man. That was
Yeah, we sponsored
That was
actually.
2019, I think.
We sponsored the billiard room and that
I didn't
kind of
even
thing.
see the billiard room.
Yeah.
Man, I wish
So-
I had been close for LandTrust back then. The billiard room. You're talking my language now. And then they gave that to you for
Yeah.
sponsoring, or
Yeah,
that was
for sponsoring. Yeah, we
a
sponsored a billiard.
Nobody even said anything about it.
Right. Someone had the conservatory and the kitchen. I think it was Mr. Green and Mrs. White or whatever with the candlestick. Anyway, a Clue reference.
Yeah. Over my head. But
Anyway,
Yeah.
so you like the events. So hold on. I don't like the direction we're going with this here.
that even would be fine as long as it's like.
Yeah, hold on. Let me just.
Put a weight in front of it or
Yeah. We'll edit this out.
It's all good. People laugh at it.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, hold on.
Well, where's the camera at? On the top part of it?
Yeah, it's right. There we go. It's right there.
Okay. Yeah, we should be good enough.
Yeah.
So anyway,
The events
being
wasn't a
social.
sacrifice.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it was a time sacrifice, and like sometimes my wife Sarah would come with me, and sometimes she would.
Yeah, you work the whole day, and now you got to get it up for the event and be,
I looked forward to it though. It was a
That's
nice
right.
relief because like, I was always social, and it's like everybody likes to get out and enjoy it. Well, it's like, everybody's just in tents. We're drinking cocktails. Everybody's relaxing and unwinding after work. So
It's not work anymore.
I looked to it. Yeah, it wasn't for me. It wasn't
Yeah.
a chore. Like, this is what I like to do. I like to go socialize.
Yeah.
I like to do stuff like that. So
And I think people, Brian, just because I've known you for a little while, I think people recognize that it wasn't a chore, it wasn't another event where you're out there, plastic fantastic shaking hands. You were a real person trying to meet
I mean, I
people.
slipped that in at the
Yeah.
end or whatever.
Of
but it's
course,
like, do
yeah,
we
you're
like
working
each
it.
other?
Yeah, you're working it.
Can we see each other like working together? Then
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm here to help if you need it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I'm in the service industry. I'm providing a service.
Yeah.
I'm here to do it.
And people resonate with that.
I'm here to do it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
circle back to a little bit earlier, right? At some point about the sacrifices, I was wearing all the hats, but I started hiring my first assistant. And I
Yeah.
tried a few assistants. I had different assistants before. But now I have the same team for the past few years, and it's working out really well. And so then you add your first assistant, then you add the second assistant, but it's still a sacrifice also financially, because you're like, well, when do I start to
When do
keep
I-
some of
yeah,
this
keep
money,
some of the
or
goodies.
keep some of the money to get to really keep the fruits of your labor, and that takes a while.
Yeah.
And I'm still I'm getting there now. I'm just looking for that extra, revenue and capital that I can start investing or whatever. But yes, the sacrifices. The events were not a sacrifice, for the most
Now
part.
we're dying to get back to them.
But I did my hard work. When I was
Yeah.
at those events, I tried to meet as many people as I possibly could. And then after I got to the point where I started seeing familiar faces, I'm like, all right, I kind of know a lot of the people in the scene. So that allows me to then make a more quality connection then. Because if I seen them, it's like, oh, I just seen, Steph or so-and-so. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
then I get to really catch up on them. And it's like, we were already comfortable with
So
each
it
other.
wasn't just a party, you were being intentional as a business person saying, hey, I'm gonna come out of here with some relationships that we can have some mutual success together.
Well, yes, but no. Like, what I mean is, like, for me, it was always about getting to know the person and knowing if I would have a good relationship
Yeah.
with them, right? If I could work with them, or if I could offer them something or help them grow their business, or whatever the case is. Like, if I knew that we would be able to do that, like, on a social level, then I felt comfortable, like, working with them and stuff. So if I, for the most part, I would still give out a card, even if I thought maybe nothing would come of it, but I knew which connections would be the best, and which ones that I would grow with,
So you had a sense for that.
Yeah, and like I said, what I meant when I was like saying is like I was working hard at those events is I made sure I went to so many events. Like when I first started, if there was 3 events, that week or 4, I'd be at pretty much every one of them. It'd be a charity event this night. It would be, a networking event this night. It would be, something else that night. And I would just go and I'd meet people and hand out my cards. Like that was a lot of time away from, my mom or my now wife, or, just trying to actually do the work.
Yeah,
Because,
or
like,
having
you go to
a-
that event,
having
you
a
have
social
fun,
life
the work
outside.
piled up, and
Yep.
you're meant to use that night for, getting the work done. Now you just got to do that the next day. But I made so many connections, through networking, through Carmen Carbonero.
Yep.
It's all worth it, and I miss those events because
Totally.
we got robbed of 2020.
No doubt.
We're now into 2021.
Some of them are coming back slowly.
Slowly,
Yeah.
and it makes sense, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
just went through something that's crazy, and we're still going through it. Obviously, things are getting better with the pandemic, and more people are getting vaccinated, and
Yeah.
we're kind of opening back up. And for some time now, I feel like people on a general level have been, like we're kind of going about our business, right? We still have to wear masks, and we're doing that out of you don't want to be breathing right on each other and getting
Right.
particles of spit
Respect.
particles
Yeah.
and stuff on people. We get it.
Yeah.
So everybody's been went about their business. It's a shame it took this long to get where we're at because so many businesses and people suffered.
Totally.
And because of that suffering, we're dealing with probably the lowest mental health in this country's history we've had,
Yeah.
like in a long time. You see people are out there angry in traffic and in their lives, and there's more domestic abuse and people are depressed and they're lashing out, and there's everything going on right now, with politically in the country too. Over last year, everything was very contentious. So, you have all that going on, but there are better times ahead. Once we get vaccinated and we fully open up, we getting back to not having to worry about like standing right next to each other.
Yeah.
Some people are predicting to be the Roaring Twenties Part 2.
Wow.
So we will see, but it'll be good to get more back to kind of normal, you know?
Yeah, so Brian, going even pre-pandemic, you come home, you've had a rough day, voicemails, you laid an egg, you dropped the ball, financial pressures. What in your mind kept you in the game? What were you thinking about to fight another day? What's your routine? Are you a visionary that way? What is it? Or are you just like a grinder, lower your head and get the work done?
Grinder.
Okay.
I mean, you're hitting me with that like corporate contrast right there. Are you a grinder? What's your motivation? My motivation is I was raised by an Irish immigrant who came here and worked like a savage in the 60s and taught me the same thing.
There you go.
You earn your keep.
Yeah.
You go out there and you make your money. And like,
So you're tough.
I felt that there wasn't many problems that couldn't be cured with hard work. And you know what? For the most part, that is kind of true.
I like that.
But then, doing this now for more years and growing, you get to a point where you got to understand your limits, like what you're really up against, and you got to have good people around you to help you. But yeah, man, at first I would get in there and I'd work hard. And fortunately, the reason I've gotten where I am is I haven't dropped the ball too many times. There's been some things here and there.
Yeah.
You can't please all the people all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been very fortunate in my career that I have not really dropped the ball in any major ways. There's been times where people have been disappointing me. There's been times where things are delayed. I have right now a client who had purchased a property as is, and the seller has held money back to protect the buyer, in the event that they don't correct the problems. And now it seems like we're gonna have to collect on it. It's been months and months and months. It's been going on almost a year. And there's few little exceptions that get away from me, but I will make good on those things and try to right any wrongs. And that's another thing I always try to do. It's like, I'm good, but I'm not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if I've let somebody down, I always try to make it up to them, or time sometimes will heal the wounds. It might be like, I worked with somebody and the realtor said, well, you know what, this didn't work out. Maybe the client wasn't the most pleased, but after a while they see that I tried to make it up to them in some way or another, or I did my best, and even if they haven't worked with me in a while, they'll start working with me again. So I've been fortunate in that way. But yeah, hard work was one of the things you have to put in to try to solve the problems.
Hey, you and I have a lot in common, by the way, because I am a son of an immigrant family as well. My parents came from Serbia, and very similar. They're German descent, but came from Serbia in the right after World War II, and very similar, path to. So I'm not a big fan of the corporate shtick as well. But are there daily routines that you have? Starting out in the morning, whatever it is. Is there something that you do that keeps you centered?
I try to have the routines.
Okay.
I had within the last few weeks I had gotten a cold. I had to get antibiotics from the doctor, whatever. But my normal routine in the morning would be, I get up. I have sleep apnea, so I have to clean my machine and put it away real quick.
Okay.
But my routine to kind of get me centered would be to do a little yoga stretching for.
Bro, I seen I maybe it was Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you do yoga stretching on Facebook Live?
I did a push-up channel.
Okay, push-up channel.
What you saw?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, but I thought that you actually spoke of it at one point.
I did some yoga. I do yoga stuff through Zoom. In fact,
okay, through Zoom. Okay.
Tonight after the podcast is over, I'm going to be teaching a yoga class. I'm not certified, but I've done it enough where I can bring value to people.
Okay, it sounds familiar to me. So I've heard you mention yoga. So so that you try to do yoga to get
a bit. First of all, because I'm getting older, the way I sleep with the mask on and stuff, sometimes it puts extra stress on my lower back. I wake up with lower back pain and stuff. Not too often, thankfully, but doing yoga stretching and also taking that time to think and be at peace, because my wife will still be in bed and we have a fairly large size bedroom, so I can, it's all carpeted. I start doing my stretches, just loosen up to get ready to feel loose through the day, because I feel like every ache or pain or stiffness or soreness or whatever you're feeling is another weight you have to carry with you that day. And if you don't acknowledge it, you're like a race car in red, and you're carrying all that with you, and you don't even then you realize when you're sitting there in your car, man, why didn't if I stretched, I would have just felt so loose today. And then having that loose body and that that body that feels good allows your mind to be more at peace, so I handle things more peacefully. So
I like that, Brian.
my routine when I'm feeling well, which I'm about to get back to, is a little bit of yoga in the morning, but also take that time to almost meditate while I'm doing it.
Right.
I've never been huge on meditation, but I started more recently with one of the people that I do yoga with, and it started to make me feel more comfortable and allow me to step out of body for a second and just make peace with everything that I'm going through, but then know that I can be strong and kind of handle it no matter what. So I'm going to get more into that. Like, I think I want to start meditating and just take some quick notes down about all the things I have to do that day. Because if you can't make that list in peace and quiet, and then the phone starts ringing, you get pulled in a million different directions in the day, you're not going to get done what you needed to get done. So kind of meditate a little bit more and think about things, make my list, do my yoga stretches, but also I like to do a little cardio. I used to do in the insanity workout, which is a lot of calisthenics, right?
Shaun T.
Shaun T all the way, right? Like power through. He's like deep breath in, exhale out. He's like power through. It's like 10 more seconds. You know what I mean? He gets you through it. Totally. So like I like to do a little bit of that. Like I had done some of those insanity videos so many times that I basically memorized routine. So I don't even have to put it on anymore. I'll do like 10, 15 minutes of it. If I really have time, I would do a half hour. Like in the winter, I was doing half hour to an hour sometimes.
Great for COVID, man.
Well, yeah, it keeps the blood flowing. It helps your body find infections quicker as the blood circulates through the body or whatever. But when you get that blood flowing, I just feel like I'm getting more blood to my brain and around my body, and I just feel more energized to take on the day. Like morning's the best time to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unfortunately, tonight after maybe the yoga class, I might get in a little cardio because I've been down. I've been on the shelf for like a week and a half, no exercise.
Man.
So I'd like to get a little into. The only thing is, you get that blood flowing before bed, you're not really ready to go to sleep necessarily.
Right. Yeah. Okay, those are good. So you're a thoughtful guy. I watched you do some YouTube stuff with like quotes, and I thought those were really good. I thought it was really good. And what it's one thing to read the quote, but it's another thing because I think every person looks at a piece of art just a little bit differently. So how do where do you get that inspiration? Because you seem like a rough tumble guy, ready to knock heads if need be. And here you are talking. Here you talk about the quotes that inspire you. So how does that fit with a guy like you? I mean, how'd you start it, and what inspired you to start sharing that with other people? You're kind of vulnerable on those.
Well, it's a very simple, I guess, secret. I used to work at Menards.
Okay.
And they would post their like sales flyers in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing about Menards is they put a wise saying on the bottom of each page on most of their flyers.
Literature.
So, you go in a washroom, you're standing there at a urinal, and you're looking up like, you see some positive quote, and you're like, all right, let's go. This. Right? So I'm like, I could live my life by that. Right? So I started collecting all those flyers, and I would just pick these sayings like and reflect on them myself. So that when I did that on YouTube or whatever on Facebook, it's called Reflection on Wise Words. So I would just say like, here's something that I think is cool and it has value and it brings meaning or something you can learn from or use. And then share it and just kind of like talk about what it means to me. Like, this is what it means to me. You might find something different, or you might be like, oh, I agree with that. Like, yeah, that's a really good saying for that reason. So I did that for a while. But also, my dad was always into that. He would quote different people. So I think I got that idea of like wise sayings and stuff from him, my mom, because Irish people, they have all these old superstitions and wise sayings that they use. So my brain was already tuned to that. I'm actually going to start doing those again soon, but I think I'm going to do it without a video portion.
Okay.
So I think I'm just going to do, just the saying on Facebook, make a few comments about it, and just kind of leave it to people to read, because I felt like when I was doing them on my own, like, I felt like the content was good, but this is more exciting, right? Like, I'm going to sit there on my own, like, yeah, I'm an attorney, but I'm not some celebrity. Nobody knows who I am. I'm just like sitting there giving my opinion on these things, and it's like, wait, why am I watching this? Like, who is this? So I was like, I felt like a little boring maybe, like, where I'm like, how is this coming off to the listener? Because I feel like the true me, my personality, my sense of humor comes through more when I'm in a conversation. Like, if I'm just sitting there on my own, I'm like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I think I'm still gonna put those out. But I'm not going to do the video portion. So my dad and the Menards flyers, and just finding, and it's not just them. There's other wise sayings I found in other places as well. But I like to share that type of stuff with people. Like for my podcast coming up, always be learning is one of our little mottos. for the podcast, Blessed Life University, which will
Love
be
it.
a bunch of them coming out soon.
Yeah.
So just those things, if I can share knowledge and just make people's lives better, make them feel better
Yeah.
when they're listening to it, that's what I'm all about.
Well, and I'll tell you that I loved watching them, and so you got one fan, and what I would say is there's probably thousands of Menards employees that went in there and took a leak and never read that stuff and never took it to heart.
Some of them are, if they hear this now, they're like, oh, no shit, let me look at that. You know?
Exactly, but you went in there and so it's the power of even changing one person, and the power of speaking your truth, I think makes you a better person, and it helps you to, if you release something, I think God gives you more to create with, in some ways, where if you're holding it in, that's all you got, you don't get any more, but, so this idea of being a constant conduit of expression of creativity, and so that inspired me, just seeing you get out there and like, hey, I don't care if one person is watching, I don't care if I'm talking to myself,
Yeah.
I'm going to say these words, I'm going to tell you what they mean to me, and it took some courage to do that, so it takes courage.
Well, thank you.
So I
But
applaud it.
part of the reason I stopped doing the videos too is I noticed the viewership was going down.
Oh, okay.
When I first started doing them, I would see that the views.
Yeah.
When I first started doing them, the viewership was really high, and I'm like, are people depressed because of COVID? Are they what's going on?
Yeah.
I was getting some decent views, and I figured it would gain traction. And then I don't know if I wasn't doing them regularly enough, and that's key, obviously,
It
consistency.
is. Consistency is a key.
Which I will be doing with the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do one a week or every other week,
Yeah.
or sometimes even 2 a week if I can squeeze in that many. But yeah, the consistency. So maybe that was it. Maybe I left a full month, and people are just like, oh, I think I saw this before, or whatever type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of part of it too. Because when I first started, the views were pretty good. But then as time went on, they started trailing off. And I don't want people to think I'm pretentious. I'm just sharing like a wise thing I found and just kind of reflecting on it, and hopefully that people connect with that. But some people did. I had
Yeah.
one of my close friends was watching it, and he was watching like one episode, and I was talking about how ways of reducing stress, and why this saying made me think of that. And he's like, I felt like you were speaking directly to me.
Wow,
and
bro. Great.
he's actually I did that too. I found ways to eliminate some of my debt, and I felt better about it. I'm like, that's exactly what I was going for, man.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. you
Yeah,
know?
that's great. That's it just says a lot about you that you care about, you don't want to keep the information to yourself. Okay, I want to talk about tyranny law, and in kind of just in the closing of the video, Brian, what differentiates yourself? How do you differentiate yourself from there's a bunch of real estate attorneys on the market, yet you're a person that has built their business, you've doubled, consistently over the years, you have a lot of great real estate relationships. How do you differentiate yourself in a market where there's just a lot of people, a lot of noise, a lot of business cards flying around?
I try to be personable. I try to be accessible. You know what I mean?
So what does that mean, accessible? Answer your phone,
Well, yeah,
be responsive?
I feel like there's probably, I don't know, with technology now, how many real estate attorneys, how many realtors have their personal cell phone number? How many clients have their personal cell phone number?
Mhm.
How many of them can text message with them? How many of them can talk with them a little bit later at night? Now it's I can't talk to every single person, and sometimes I do have to leave the call until the next day. But sometimes I'm making sure that they know the plan forward so they can feel comfortable. They can get a better night's sleep that night knowing that we already talked about this, we will get it taken care of. So
You don't go dark for periods of time.
I try
People
not
are
to.
yeah.
If I go dark, or if I'm not responding, it's just because I'm busy. When we're doing
Yeah.
this right now, I'm not checking my cell phone
Right.
because we're engaged in a conversation.
Right.
I'm being respectful to you,
Right.
and to myself as well, and to this conversation and everything we're doing here. But when that's done, I will respond.
Yeah.
So if I'm down for a while, I just want people to know that anybody who's watching, it's I will get back to you, and I do see the messages. I don't forget about you. I don't ignore you. But being accessible, because I think there's probably a lot of attorneys after work, they don't feel comfortable calling them, or they feel like this attorney's above me, right? Every single time, they're dressed this way, or they're I feel like I'm bothering them when I call them. We all have a lot going on in our life, myself included, outside
Yeah.
of this job.
Sure.
But I always try to be compassionate and understanding, and try to have a sense of humor, make people feel good. What we're doing is not easy. Shout out to all my realtors out there working hard, closing deals, starting something from nothing, making cold calls, building up a client base. That's hard work.
Yeah, you
and to see
understand
that
what
baby
they're
all the way
going
to the
through.
finish line,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm blessed that people trust in me enough to think of me as somebody who can be trusted with their clients' to make a deal work. And it's like, when we make things happen smoothly, it's the problems that you hear about more, but we make them happen smoothly all the time, so we don't really hear a lot about problems. So just being accessible, being friendly, being nice, being understanding, and just speaking the truth and telling them, like, this is gonna be a tough one to solve, or here's how we'll solve it. And just being personable, accessible, and not trying to, I don't think I'm above anybody else. I went to school and I got a degree, but I think of like people out there working hard. It's this complex life we live, right? It may not be as hard nowadays with great transportation and 5G everywhere, but it's a complex life, and it's been more complicated by the pandemic and all that. So being accessible, being nice, having a system in place, having good staff, like, we work together and we care about each other, so we care about what we do as a work product, and that's why we deliver such good results. So I feel like, being personal, accessible, having a good staff and a system in place to deliver those results, and just being there for people. I go to people's events outside of that. I just got invited to a quinceañera today, so shout out to Veronica Hernandez and her daughter, who's having her
awesome.
Sweet 16 coming up in June.
That means a lot, right?
Yeah, and I'm with people outside of it, because
Yeah.
I'm going through not only the business life and the challenges of that and the stress of that, and trying to handling people's business and their expectations and their emotions. That's a very heavy weight to carry, especially when you're working with many clients and then handling all of your own on top of that.
Yeah.
So just trying to always stay nice and connected and in touch and communicating, even when we're going through all that. And even when we're going through a pandemic, there was times where we were doing these closings, via computer. I get the documents in the same order as a buyer, and we're doing this over the phone. I'd rather be there in person, and I have since like maybe September or something of this past year, in 2020, going back to the closings in person. It's easier, it's quicker, you make that connection with the people, they feel happier. A lot can be forgiven when you're making those interactions in person. So even if they weren't totally happy with you, or you couldn't call them as much as they wanted you to, a lot can be forgiven if you're there in person. And people feel more at ease. Like, they're going into this closing, you want to make sure everything's done right, they feel better. Let's say there was some damage to the property, the seller damaged the property on the way out. If I'm at the closing, the buyer feels much better because I'm there to explain it to them, or I'm there to, if the seller's attorney is there in person, we're talking about it in person. If they're, it's at their office, I can at least get them on the phone, they can hear me, and it reassures them, they're not freaking out. So I guess to come full circle, accessibility, being friendly, working hard, having a good team, and just being kind of holistic.
I was thinking holistic. I was thinking that word, buddy. That's great.
I'm
I
not
love
above
it.
them.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hide from anybody. I'll talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
I'll help anybody as much as I can.
Yeah.
So just trying to be holistic, not to be just, you can only call me 9 to 5, and don't bother calling me after that. Or when you pick up the phone, like, oh, okay, you want to, like, I try as much as I can. And I've been through a lot, man. Sometimes it's hard. Like, I really have to fight to be positive, because the sleep apnea, it messes up my head, like irregular breathing. Even with the mask,
Right.
I'm still not 100%.
Right,
There's nights where I have a bad night's sleep, and
yeah.
my brain is foggy the next
Yeah.
day. It messes with your blood pressure. I get palpitations sometimes, but I do my best to stay fit and stay healthy. Like we were talking about exercise earlier, I got to keep a healthy body and healthy mind so that I can help everybody else to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not going to be good at what I do. I'm going to have doubts, or I'm not going to be able to do it much longer. You know what I mean? So that's why exercise is so
Balance in
important.
life, right?
I try to find it as much as possible. It is not easy.
No.
Because real estate law, everything we do here with LandTrust, it consumes the vast majority of my time.
Yeah. Well, you're a real pro, man. I just love your ready explanation. All right, here's some tough questions. Okay, so.
Keep them coming. You got
Yeah,
me.
here we go. Okay, Cubs or Sox?
Sox, 100%.
That's such a surprise to me, Brian.
I'll die with it. You know what I mean? If it's a war going on, like, I'm from the South Side, man. Like, there's a time for peace and there's a time for war. I'm from the South Side.
So are you the type of Sox fan that it's only better if the Cubs lose too?
I used to be when I was younger.
Okay.
But I'm a changed man. I've
All
grown, right? I don't like the animosity anymore.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to find.
I'm a North Sider.
I prefer peace, but I am ready for war. So
I love the Aussie Sox, and so I'm not a Sox hater, but I am a Cub fan. Okay.
It's all good, man. I'm sure Carmen is too.
Yeah, maybe. I haven't checked.
A lot of people on LandTrust staff.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I'm on the minority there.
No, there's a certain beauty to the South Side, that's for sure. Okay, hot dogs, ketchup or mustard?
When I was young, ketchup. And
Okay.
I know you're not supposed to do that. It's not supposed to be a Chicago
No, it's okay.
thing.
There's no rules, man. It's a personal
But now
thing.
I will take mustard. Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because like if it's an Oscar Mayer, you know, those aren't like, if you're eating the ones that are not beef,
Yep.
ketchup seems to taste pretty good one, but if you're eating a good beef frank like Vienna or something like that, that's 100% beef, or Nathan's hot dogs are incredible. They serve those at Yankee Stadium, whatever. That's the official New York hot dog of the Yankees. Like you can get those here in Jewel or whatever.
Yeah.
Mustard, probably. What about you?
Yeah, so mustard, absolutely.
Probably,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Because-
food. So going back to food, Sox Park compared to Cubs Wrigley. I mean, Sox Park wins in the food category like 1,000,000%.
Really, you think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have more variety and it's more
Yeah.
suited to the modern setup they have here.
Totally.
Lends it to having a bunch
free
of different food.
flowing. Yeah.
Well, and then you have the tailgating, like.
Totally.
You know, it's
You
a
can't
shame.
tailgate.
And I'm not hating on Wrigley. I've been to a bunch of Cubs games.
Yeah.
I used to go down there when I was younger all
Yeah.
the time. I just
Yeah.
loved baseball.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, one of my fondest memories I found $60 just sitting on the ground outside in Wrigleyville. It's like I don't see anybody around. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Just somebody's gonna say, oh, that's mine, or I gotta find the nearest police officer to turn the $60 back in. No, what I
That's
did
mine,
with the
baby.
$60 was I bought a Hank Aaron baseball card before he passed away.
Whoa.
When I was a kid, you know, that young.
Yeah.
I know that he was one of my favorite players. I'm like, oh man, this guy's hit like the most home runs of all time. So I remember I took that $60 and I spent like almost $40 of it on a Hank Aaron baseball card that I still have. It's at my mom's house somewhere. I gotta find the damn thing. But yeah, I've been to Wrigley Field. You know, like I said, I had that memory there. But it's nice to be able to tailgate. Like with the Sox game, if it's a 3 o'clock game or something, you go there on the weekend. It's like a family event, right?
Yeah.
Everybody parks their cars.
Yeah.
They bring out the little grill. They're
Yeah.
throwing bags. They're having beers.
Yeah.
Everybody's socializing. You have your food and drinks before you even go in there, and you don't have to spend as much, right? This is a South Side thing, right? You know, we're having that bonding experience.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate you don't have a lot of parking around.
That's right.
Wrigley,
That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just baseball's a
Different
beautiful thing.
environment.
I can't wait till that comes back.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, well, Brian, I just want to say it's been a pleasure spending time with you. You are an
It's gonna make
inspiration.
me cry.
No, you're an inspiration in many ways. I know that there's a bunch of different entrepreneurs that view our, that listen or view, and they get a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of you've provided a lot of content and a lot of boots on the ground type of advice that someone can grab and take. Hard work, being accessible, being compassionate, being kind, especially during this period of time where you never know what a person's going through. You don't know what, you haven't been in their shoes. And so have some compassion and grace for people. So thanks for sitting down with us. And I look forward to your launch of your podcast.
It's coming
and
soon.
just some great content from you. We'll put the information in the show notes so people can tap into it.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm gonna have a lot of content coming out, and it's gonna be fairly consistent. It was getting expensive to do some of the content I was making on YouTube and Facebook for a while, but I have my own studio in my office. I have all the equipment. I have a lot of people that I want to speak with and have
awesome.
great moments like we've had here,
Yep.
and a lot of knowledge I want to spread. So that is coming, and I hope everybody tunes in.
Yeah.
I love doing it, and I look forward to sharing it with everybody.
Awesome. We'll share it whenever you have an episode come out. We'll share it on this platform. as
Sounds
well.
good.
All right.
Let's finish up with some coffee here. We've got to stay awake for the next couple hours.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Steve, and thanks everybody at LandTrust, and hope you guys enjoyed this.
And thank you to Carmen for the connection.
Yes, and we'll do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
Let's catch up in like 6 months. I know we.
Take a Sox game in together. for
Hopefully
sure.
so, if depending on the capacity and all
No
this.
doubt.
And so yeah, thanks again. I hope everybody enjoys it.
Yeah. Signing off.
Be good.